Well, hello all. This is the second time I've tried to do this video. For some reason, I keep forgetting to hit record. I don't know if it's age related or what it is, something in the water. So we'll try it again. So scientists are saying that they're very worried about the Greenland ice sheet. Apparently these atmospheric rivers of warm rain that are going into the Greenland ice sheet is causing micro cracks in the ice sheet itself, which is causing it to melt much faster than they thought, and is going to cause global sea level rise much faster and much sooner than previously thought. Even just the last study, they're finding that there's more problems. So that's the update on the Greenland ice sheet. But let's go in and talk about the other side of the globe, the Antarctic ice sheet, and what's happening with it. Something weird is going on. Antarctic sea ice stays at historic lows. Some scientists fear the shocking shift is the beginning of a global heating-linked collapse of the ice sheet that could have alarming knockoff effects. Oh, really? But it doesn't really get to just how shocking this is. In February, the floating sea ice around Antarctica hit a record low for the second year running. Some are worried that they could be witnessing the start of a slow collapse of Antarctic sea ice around Antarctica. Now we have to remember that Antarctica is in winter, and by now there would usually be about 16.4 million square kilometers of Antarctic sea ice. But this week there was just 14.1 million square kilometers of Antarctic sea ice around Antarctica. Look at the Antarctic sea ice extent for July 2023. Especially look at the red line around Antarctica. That is the present sea ice that's around there now. Notice how much smaller and less ice there is around the continent. Look at the sea ice around Antarctica. It is 2.4 million square kilometers less than average for the time of the year. And this graph here shows you how bad it is. There is one working theory for the loss of sea ice, that the waters around Antarctica are warmer. Now, I don't know how much scientific study there was to take to find out that the water around Antarctica is warming up. But let's hope they didn't spend too much money on it. Now, unfortunately, there's a new conspiracy theory going around in the right-wing conspiracy theory zone that scientists are no longer taking measurements for temperature at the same height off the ground that they used to. They say that the scientists are now taking heat measurements off the ground itself and not 2.5 feet off the ground like it's always been. It's not scientists taking the thermometer and holding it 2.5 feet on the ground. It's equipment that has been around for decades taking the same measurements as they've always taken, 2.5 feet off the ground. Some of them are taking the measurements off of rooftops and some out in the wilderness, but they're usually at least 2.5 feet off the ground, and it's always been that way. So when you see 117 degrees consecutively day after day in Arizona, that is the true temperature. It's not the scientists coming up with a conspiracy. That's the nut job right-wingers that are coming up with this. It's one of the big conspiracies they're putting out here, saying that there's no such thing as global climate change because the scientists are holding the thermometer at the ground level and taking the temperature reading there. Well, you go ahead and take your temperature reading around where you are, about 2.5 feet off the ground, and see what you find. Is it still as hot as they say it is? This is very easy to confirm, and I think they need to go back to their conspiracies about gas stoves, Disneyland, and Barbie dolls, and forget about trying to convince us that global climate change isn't happening. You have another problem, is that the severe rain that's happening all over the globe is caused by global climate change. Well, it is, because the warmer the atmosphere gets, the more moisture it holds. And that means that the rain in the cloud is going to be more intense, because the moisture in the clouds is much higher than it used to be. And it's just like putting a pan of water with a glass cover over it on the stove. When you first put it on, the lid stays clear. It doesn't fog up. But as soon as you turn the heat up, any temperature at all, just warm, all of a sudden there's all this condensation on the lid. And when you get up into the higher temperatures, you notice that the condensation starts dripping off the lid down into the water. Well, that's the same thing that's happening to our globe. The warmer the atmosphere, the more moisture in the air, and the harder the rain will fall, and the more rainfall, and the more floods and severe weather we will have. Bigger thunderstorms, bigger tornadoes, bigger hurricanes, and all that. It's just scientific fact and not conspiracy theory. It's too bad the right wing don't just use a little bit of knowledge that they can go and look up themselves and find out whether this is all true or not. Your comments are welcome on this. How's your weather doing? Is it starting to cool off? Is the monsoonal season starting to cool things off a little bit around where you live? The West Coast will now start to heat up, and in August and September and October is when we get our heat waves. So we're just waiting for it to start, and hopefully it won't be too bad this year. The cool water off the coast of California hopefully will keep us cool, and the fog and the natural air conditioning will stay. So I appreciate any comments you have, and until next time.